up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages? Boy, oh boy, do I have a story to tell you guys. Crazy. Crazy story. What's up, kids? If you can share the scope, that would be great. Can you guys hear me okay? Let me know if you can hear me. You should be able to hear me loud and clear. Everybody doing all right out there? Everybody doing all right? Go ahead and share the scope if you would. That would be great. While I load this up, because it's going to be part of the story. The story. I got to pull something up here real quick. So, a lot of stories today. A lot of stories. Yo, what's up, Crippler? How are you? What's up, Bamera Pride? What's going on? No Crump tonight. Yeah, no Crump yet. Maybe tomorrow night I'll pull Crump out. People have been asking for Crump for a while now. Where's Crump at? Maybe I'll pull Crump out tomorrow night. So, interesting story of the day when I woke up. Very interesting. Share the scope and I'll start in a couple minutes here. Just getting everything lined up here for tonight's awesome show. It's awesome to have Zero back online, top-notch research. Absolutely, I'm back to doing that. I'm not going to be doing a whole lot of tweeting, just a lot of researching. And today's stories were pretty phenomenal. So there ain't no indictments coming, Jesus Christ. You know, you'll be waiting until next Christmas for that shit. Indictments. Indictments. How many of you still think indictments are coming? I know you're joking, by the way, Stu. I mean, come on. There's no indictments coming. Everybody knows there's no indictments. We'll be here till our face turn blue waiting for indictments from all of these clowns, these pundit clowns who sell massive amounts of bullshit on a daily basis. I'm not on as much anymore because I work for a living, half of the last year. But listen, if you're going to wait for indictments, you'll be waiting a long time. A long, 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 long time. These guys who've been doing this for what, 4 years? I talk about this every scope, pretty much because somebody asked, but come on, these guys have been doing this for 5 years. Every other day they're like, anytime now, guys, a storm is coming, this is coming, that is coming, everybody, oh my God. You know, how many times have we heard it? Yeah. Boogity boogada. Vegas still I love Vegas. It's my new home. New home. Yeah, me and the wife love it here. It's hot. I'm not gonna lie. It gets hot here. Hotter than a... But, you know, I'll be looking forward to the fall and the winter when it comes because it'll be warm, but I won't be so hot, so it won't be so bad. Be lucky if the Judicial Watch Hillary stuff gets any traction in court. Hillary's not going to court, guys. I mean, this whole thing where people think Hillary's going to court, come on. Hillary's going to plead the fifth, send her lawyers, and have a nice day. Hillary will never, ever show up at court. Obama won't show up to court. None of these guys are going to court. If these guys show up to court, I'd fucking shit my pants. But that ain't happening. Trust the scam. They moved the date to October now. Of course. It's always pushed out further so they can keep taking your money. Don't you understand that? It's all about filling their pockets. It's all about filling their pockets. That's all it's about. You know, every time it gets close to a date, they push the date out so they can keep taking money from the poor old people out there. People like David Hayes and people like Brian Cates and all of these people so they can rob the fucking elderly in the Trump movement. That's all it's about. It's about robbing people. We've watched this go on for how long now? And if, you know, these old people don't have a clue yet, fuck them. I got better shit to do. Don't really care. Keep ripping them off. What can you do? These fucking old people are stupid if they're still believing that indictments are coming any day now. They're just stupid as shit. I gave up on them a long time ago, as you should too. I don't even pay no mind to it anymore. You know? But here's an interesting story of the day to get beyond the grifters that are in the conservative movement. So here is an interesting story. There was a woman named, I'm going to try to pronounce her name right here, Oluwatoyin, I'm going to say Salau. Oluwatoyin Salau, I don't speak Nigerian, so I probably suck at it, was a Black Lives Matter speaker. Was a Black Lives Matter speaker, and unfortunately, she was raped and murdered by a gentleman of blackness over the weekend. On June 6th, she had a series of tweets that were just something to read. And it was one of the most sad stories I'd ever read. So this girl, she shows up at these Black Lives Matter rallies, and she gets a little bit of notoriety for speaking out about police violence against African Americans. As you know, which is a hot topic right now throughout the country. But she's out there speaking out about the police brutality, which happens. Let's not say it doesn't happen, because it happens every now and then. Every profession has bad apples, right? So anyway, she's out there speaking about, police brutality and this and that. And so she ends up going to this church, and she puts her phone there, her clothes. And yeah, it's a horrible story. It really is very tragic. And so she ends up leaving her clothes and her phone at a church, and she meets a gentleman who is another guy who's involved in the protesting, and she thinks he's a safe guy, and she's like, okay, I'm gonna go to this thing, and I'm gonna hang out with this guy, and I think he's a churchgoer, a nice guy. But on June 6th, she puts out these series of tweets, which were very disturbing at the least, of a sexual assault that she had done to her over Twitter. And unfortunately, this is what led up to her demise. But, all of these Black Lives Matter protesters are now blaming that the police didn't get involved, that the police didn't step in, these are the same people that want to defund the police. And now they're mad because the police didn't step in. They've been chanting for weeks, defund the police, don't go near the police, don't talk to the police. What? Well, you can't have it both ways. And let's face it, protests and riots lead to violence. It's time and time again, protests and riots lead to violence. That's the only outcome of a protest these days, is that it leads to more and more violence. But let's go ahead and read her tweets, because it was very interesting. And it starts on 6/6 of 2020. I named it RIP Queen, her last tweet, as the hashtag said this morning. As I got up, I read RIP Queen, and Twitter suppressed it like they always do, because it was negative towards the Black Lives Matter movement, because, if it doesn't meet the narrative, Twitter will throw it in the trash can and not talk about it, because that's what they do. So here it is. Here's her story through a series of tweets, which I saved, because, me, I like to archive everything. So here it starts out, and it's the young lady speaking there with the bullhorn. Anyways, I was molested in Tallahassee, Florida, by a black man this morning at 5:30 a.m. on Richview and Park Avenue. The man offered to give me a ride to find some place to sleep and recollect my belongings from a church I refuged to a couple days back. She goes on to say, back to escape unjust living conditions. He came disguised as a man of God and ended up picking me up from nearby Saxon Street. So we know she was on Saxon Street. I entered his truck only because I carry anything to defend myself, without even a phone. So she didn't have any phone with her. She had nothing with her, which is currently at the church. Her phone was at the church. So the police know they can find her phone at the church, which I'm sure they did. And I have poor vision, so the girl couldn't see very well. I trusted the Holy Spirit to keep me safe. When we arrived at his house, he offered me a shower. I thanked him and showered, and he gave me a change of clothes. He then exposed himself to me, peeing in the bathroom, open, obviously knowing I was out of it. I told him about a sexual assault situation that happened to me in March of 2020. So this girl tells this man about a sexual assault that happened in March of 2020. So not only has she been sexually assaulted one time prior, now she's about to be sexually assaulted again. We'll continue the story. It was involving Ivan, a 32-year-old Ghanaian man who currently schools at FAMU there in Tallahassee, Florida. And I hope the police are going to go after him too, because she pretty much said on Twitter she was sexually assaulted by 2 black males in FAMU and lives at 211 Jake and Patterson. I'm currently 19 years old. He tried to force me to have oral sex and then continued to harass me through text and knocking on the door. So this guy kept texting her. He kept knocking on the door even after she was, molested by this individual. And he knocked on her door for days. Going back to the situation that happened to me this morning, I did not fall asleep. He then asked me if I wanted a massage. At this moment, his roommate, who was in the house, was asleep, so there was another individual in there at the time. I was laying on my stomach trying to calm myself down from severe PTSD. PTSD is post-traumatic syndrome disorder. So evidently the prior sexual assault that she had happened to her was causing her to have PTSD with the other gentleman. Then the gentleman started touching her back and rubbing her body until he, climaxed, I guess you could say. This is her words, not mine. And then went to sleep. Before I realized what had happened to me, looked over, his clothes were completely off. Once I saw he was asleep, I escaped from the house and started walking from Richview Road. Now this was the road the man's residence was on, to anywhere else. All of my belongings, my phone, my clothes, my shoes are all presumably at the church, where I've been trying to track to since I sought spiritual guidance and refuge. I will not be silent. Literally wearing this man's clothes right now, DNA all over me because I couldn't locate his house. The moment I called the police because I couldn't see. So she did call the police. Now, I took a snapshot from her timeline earlier as well, and this one is a little graphic, so I didn't want to tweet it out because it would have gotten me a definite ban because I'm not black and I can't use the words that she used. But I definitely took a snapshot of it. So, here she writes in another tweet, was a response to another tweet that she had gotten. The same N-word, she used the N-word, I'm risking my life for are the same N-word who are convinced they are stealing away my innocence, my jewel, not knowing that I am standing on a rock. Therefore, I can never be broken and I can never be robbed. So this lady talks about she's being sexually assaulted by the same protesters that she is standing up for. What does that tell you about what is going on in this country with African American males and how they treat the females of the same color? It tells you everything. That's the real issue here. It's not about police. It's not about white people. It's not about this. It's not about that. It's about the family unit in that community, how they look at women and how they treat the women in that community. This is just one story, and I've heard countless stories just like it. And the media doesn't want to talk about it. The social media junkheads don't want to talk about it. These pundits don't want to talk about it. Nobody wants to address the situation of the African American female being brutalized, raped, murdered, killed on a daily basis at the hands of their boyfriends, other men, of that race. Statistically, if you look it up, which I found interesting this morning because it sent me on a whirlwind just reading the story, I was like, well, what are the statistics of black women being raped in this country? And it was alarming. 5 out of 10 African American women are raped in their life. 5 out of 10. That's 50% of black women suffer rapes at the hands of black men. See how wide my eyes got here? Cops are the problem. No. Cops are not the problem here, ladies and gentlemen. The problem is the upbringing of these sociopaths into society that are engaging in this urban ghetto fucking scumbagness that is happening. It's a shocking amount of numbers. And this poor girl who was just out trying to protest and help these men, about police brutality, was brutalized, raped, and murdered by the same people she was trying to help. Does that even make sense? Does that even make sense? And as I was reading through the thread on Twitter and reading through the bullshit, I'm like, wow, these people. Hearts and prayers, forgiveness, hearts and prayers, forgiveness, hearts and prayers. I was like, how about some justice? Like, how about some justice? How about arresting the culprit that did this to her? I think that's more important. I was like, whoa. It's the craziest story I've ever read.